different levels of tzimtzumim. And we are explaining that there is the level before the tzimtzum that's called yichaylas laha'ir, the level of in etzem itself, in the essence itself. There's the level that is the possibility for shining, and from that possibility comes out any type of oir, any type of light that's before the tzimtzum. And over there, the Tzemach Tzedek brings in, from a manuscript of the Alter Rebbe, that over there is the level of tzimtzum also. Now the Rebbe is going to introduce further levels of tzimtzumim. Obviously, before the tzimtzum, even though again we said that the common expression is that there is a tzimtzum harishan, the first tzimtzum, but really prior to the first tzimtzum, there's other tzimtzumim as well, which we will go through now further in the Maimer. So again, we're on page 7, second paragraph on the page, line 21. Amnam tzimtzum zeh b'chinas hayichaylos, this tzimtzum, that's the level of Hashem's yichaylos, capability and possibility of oir, that without there being an actual oir yet, einem aspect adayin is still insufficient. Sheyi al yadu b'chinas oir in safa amalas kol matziyah is that through that tzimtzum that goes from the yichaylos lahayir, and then there's a level of the oir in saf, the level that had to be the tzimtzum arishonim that filled the entire existence, and because of that is spashtas ha'oir, because that expansion of the oir, there was no room for the world to stand. To get from that level of yichaylos to the level of the oir and sof and mal kol machal, there's further needs for tzimtzum. So he says, this idea will be understood according to what the Mittler Rebbe explains in his Shar HaYichud. There has to be the knowledge, we need to know, part of our mitzvah of knowing about Hashem, there also needs to be a knowledge in the details of the chain order of the scent of the worlds, and also v'gam beprate inyan hatzimtzum, and also in the details of the idea of tzimtzum that there is to be found. Second line on Chav Zayin, and continuation to this, he explains. Even before the first tzimtzum, there are 3 bechinos, madreges, and levels. For example, in the idea that we say that Hashem desired kindness, because Hashem desired to do kindness, that's why that's the reason behind the entire creation in the first tzimtzum. So in that desire to do kindness itself, prior to the tzimtzum, there are 3 levels, until the level of b'chinas shir atzim b'koyach kol ma she'asad liyas b'poil, that he evaluated, estimated, imagined within himself everything that would be afterwards in actuality. And even this level of shir atzim v'koyach, shagam dargazu, he lifnei ha'or shoyim malim makim acholol. It's even prior to this level of the light that filled the entire space. So there's 3 levels in Hashem's chafetz chesed. Then there's only the oir and sof, a 4th level, that oir and sof is memala kol makim acholol. So, therefore, to be able to transition from all these different levels, it obviously necessitates tzimtzum. Let's go to the side, to the commentary on the right side, in line 17 in the commentary, where he brings what the Mittler Rebbe says about these 3 levels in the Chafetz Chesed, that's before even the oir that filled the entire space. So let's look at the side of the page in the commentary, line 17. When a person desires goodness, kindness and goodness, to do some specific good action. He wants to give someone, let's say, money to help him out. That process is a part of a development. So he's saying in line 18, in the commentary, this descends in a chain order from the essence of the nefesh, in the etzem of the soul of the person, the will to do a kindness is intermingled and part of one entity of all types of wills and all types of powers that has not yet been distinguished as a will and a desire to do kindness. And now, when it comes out of there, it comes out b'shloisha shlavim in 3 stages. Aleph, haratzon l'chesed davke, specifically, like we said, there's all types of will. Then there has to be extracted from all these different types of will, the will to do kindness. Ela shekol sugya hachsadim v'chol proteim klulim gam biyachad boisei chesed pashut. All the types of kindness and all their details are included together in that pure chesed. In other words, it's still not yet defined, this kindness. He just has this will to do kindness, as opposed to any other will. He wants to learn ideas or whatever. There's a will to do kindness, but what exactly it is, how the kindness is, that's still very vague and very general. Beis, the second thing, the second stage, then only can it come down to be a source for a specific act of kindness or an attitude of kindness. But in that individual kindness, there is the intellectual part, the emotional part, and all of that is still mixed up together. Gimel, when he's already prepared, that should come down in a specific manner because of his desire to do kindness. He wants to do an actual act of kindness. He's ready to do it. Even though he hasn't yet done that. This is the level, the third level in the Hishtalshlus of Chesed, that he evaluates, estimates within his mind, within himself, potentially what he needs to actualize. And the same thing, v'kach gam b'nimshol, so too it's also above by the Eibishter, b'amshachas b'chinas chafetz chesed, in the drawing down of Hashem's desiring kindness. Shu ha'makar l'tzimtzum. That's the source for the tzimtzum. Sheb'amshachasim im koyre b'chafetz chesed ha'atzmi, in the way how it's drawn down from the desire of the essential kindness. Yesh gimel shlavim, there are 3 stages. The lowest of the 3 stages of Hashem's kindness before the tzimtzum, that he estimated within himself potentially everything that will come out afterwards. But like we said before, this is still, let's go back into the text. Line 7, we'll read the middle, from the middle of line 7, Shagam dar gezu, even this third level in kindness. The shir atzmi b'koyach kol mashasad liyas b'poyel, even this third level is also, I don't know what happened to the camera over there, is also is also prior to that light that filled the cholol, in which is the final tzimtzum, or the major tzimtzum addition. So now he's going to talk about the tzimtzumim that have to take place until you hit the level where you have the oil and stuff and malakol makom acholol, that over there you're doing the tzimtzum. He said, V'hinei, line 8, Gam habchina the chavetz chesed ha'atzmi, even the first of those three levels. That's the three levels before there, even the Oiris of Malkal Machmacholol, even that level of his desire, of his essential kindness, though it is not actually kindness, it's only a desire for the idea of kindness. The chayfetz hu pnimius haratzon. Desire is the inner level of will, inyan hatainug, the delight. What does desire mean? When I want something, it doesn't necessarily mean that I desire it, because it could be like chitzonius haratzon. I need it for some other purpose. It's not the thing itself that I desire. Desire means, from the word, that the person enjoys this thing. So when we talk about chafetz chesed, not ratzon of chesed, but by Hashem there's chafetz chesed that shows we're dealing with the level, the deeper level of ratzon, the level of delight. So even to be able to reach that level of desire, which desire is a very deep level, even to reach that level of chafetz chesed, that what we said, that undifferentiated level of chesed, but you still removed it from all the other ritzonos. So it's understood. Even to bring about chafetz chesed, that should be, he desires kindness, not some other desires, not some other wills. You need to have a tzimtzum. How come? Why couldn't it come about without a tzimtzum? Every idea of light and revelation, there's a tzimtzum that precedes him, so that you could be able to transition from the level we spoke about yesterday. There's yicholos, the capability of Hashem's essence. And from that capability, which is not yet any revelation, it's only a possibility and a capability and a potential for revelation, to go from that yicholos into an actual revelation of light, because every light and revelation is below, incomparably lower than the level of potential and capability, and therefore that transition needs a tzimtzum. So he gives an example from what we see by the nefesh. He says in line 16, nefesh, just like in the soul of a person. The capability that's in the soul is incomparably higher than all types of revelations. As opposed to the light that's in the soul, that is not as removed from all the revelations. So when you have yicholos in the nefesh and the oir nefesh, that's so far. So if the capability in the soul and the light and revelation of the soul is like different and distinct, how much more so when it's by Hashem? So he says in line 18, so too in the idea, that first level that comes out of Hashem's yicholos, which is the level that he desires kindness, it's a level of revelation. And in comparison to that, in comparison to the revelation of him desiring kindness, the level of the capability, the possibility for all coming out of it, the idea of Yecholos is something that's higher and much more subtle, much more refined than the desire to do kindness. And therefore, the transition needs a tzimtzum, so that from the idea of the capability should come out that idea that he desires kindness. So for that, you needed to have a tzimtzum already in that first stage of the three stages that we said the Mittler Rebbe introduces in the kindness of Hashem. And then, that's not it, as we said. There's three stages. You have three stages, you need to have tzimtzumim that are appropriate. Line 22, this itself he explains in Shari Yichud of the Mittler Rebbe, that there are three levels. that he, at top of page Chavches, that he evaluated and estimated within himself everything that's going to come out in actuality. So therefore, all those stages need their tzimtzumim. And then after those three stages, we said, there becomes the infinite light of Hashem that filled all existence. So we see this very interesting type of concept that you have, even though, again, we call the tzimtzum b'derech siluk, the tzimtzum before the kav, we call it tzimtzum harishon, the first tzimtzum, and yet we find multiple levels of tzimtzumim prior to that, going through all these different stages, coming from the etzim all the way till you reach that level, the Eir Sof Mamal Kol Mok Macholol, in which there has to be the tzimtzum, which we called tzimtzum harishon, tzimtzum b'derech siluk. So now he goes on in Oisei, line 3, to be able to explain the idea of tzimtzum. The idea of tzimtzum is a concept that we say that the Eir Sof is higher to no end. In other words, that he can do tzimtzumim without a limit how many tzimtzumim he can do. Maybe behem shcha. So in the continuation of the Maimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, he brings down, going back to explaining what the Frierdiker Rebbe is saying, prior to the tzimtzum, the infinite light of Hashem. In other words, here we're talking about the tzimtzum harishon, not those other tzimtzum that we introduced. The Eir Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, was in a state of revelation. Like it is written in Eitz Chaim, and before all emanations were emanated, in other words, before Atzilus, and similar to that, Keser, and Akudim, and so on, there was a pure, simple light, an unadulterated, non-complex light that filled the entire existence. What does that mean? Vahainu, there was the revelation of the infinite light of Hashem. He continues to explain over there that the perfection of the Eir Sof, because it's perfect, it's whole, it's not lacking anything, it's not missing anything. So not only does infinite indicate that it has an unbounded, unlimited light, but it also has the capability of limitation, or else it would be incomplete. It would be lacking something. It would lack the benefits of limitation, discipline, control, etc. So if they are both there, so what is then the function of the tzimtzum? What's the problem? We already have the power of Gvul that we need for the worlds. But he says in line 10, before the tzimtzum, there was the revelation of the aspect of the Eir Sof, the way it's unbounded, unlimited. And the limited power, the power of control and constriction and limitation, was concealed. And because that power of limitation was concealed, there was no room for the worlds to stand, as opposed to after the tzimtzum harishon. So Hashem removed the entire light. Now he allowed the koyach hagvul to come to the fore. Once he allowed the power of limitation and boundary and discipline to come to the fore, so now there's room for the worlds to exist. So now he's going to explain about this process and the problem why we needed a tzimtzum harishon. He says in the second paragraph, line 14, the idea behind this is, even after all the constrictions that was mentioned previously, there was this pure, unadulterated light. That was the infinite light of the Ein Sof. That was what was manifest, like we said before, that component of the Ein Sof that has no boundaries. And that level was Memale Kol HaMetzias, filled all potential existence. For that, there had to be following the time when the Ohr Ein Sof filled the entire space. There had to be the first Tzimtzum, there had to be a constriction in that expanded light, in that light that filled up all the space. This is a much greater jump than all the other tzimtzumim that followed after the tzimtzum Rishon. How come? Because it was in a way of leaving. It was in a way of removing everything and not just constricting and decreasing. It was about completely removing it. He removed his great light to the side to allow for the worlds. And going into it even more specifically, and this first tzimtzum, that's completely different than all the following tzimtzumim. There are two actions, activities, components. One thing is removing the light that filled the entire area of the potentially empty space. In this regard, we say even in that circle that was left over, once you moved the Ohr Ein Sof on the side, what the Kabbalah used the term is, there was an eagle. There was a circle like left around. And this circle is affected by the tzimtzum. There is the Ohr that was actually constricted. That's more the Ohr HaGvul. And then there's the fact that it was moved aside. It was Naga by a tzimtzum, Chassidus says. There's the levels that are higher than the Ohr Ein Sof, Malkol, Mokmachol, Etzem Ohr, whatever. There it says, Loi Naga by a tzimtzum. A tzimtzum didn't even touch over there, didn't even affect over there. But the Ohr Ein Sof, that was Malkol, Mokmachol, that Ohr Ein Sof you moved on the side, even though you didn't actually constrict that light, but the fact that it was moved to the side, we will use the term Naga by a tzimtzum, that a tzimtzum had touched it, had impacted it. So that is one pe'ula, one effect, one function of the tzimtzum Rishon. Line 26, Vashniyam, a second function of the tzimtzum Rishon, as Amshachas HaKav, is the drawing down of this narrow line, of this thin line. So he's saying that, or this line, period. Now he's going to go into detail what type of line it is. In addition to this, shakav kav kotzer. It's not just any line, but it's a short line. This means the afshem kavzen nivracharkach kol seder ishtalshlus. Though from this line came into being the entire chain order of descent, with all of its creatures, with all its existences, with all its emanations that are like innumerable. Still in all, it's called a short line, in comparison to the great circle of the Ohr Ein Sof that filled the entire space before the tzimtzum. It's very short, it's very little. How much more so when you go higher than that level of the great circle, higher than the level of the Ohr Ein Sof that filled the entire space? How much more is it considered a short line? We said there had to be an additional tzimtzum to reach from the light before the light that filled the entire space to the light that filled the entire space that eventually became this great circle. And then the Rebbe says, top of page Chavtes, there were other additional tzimtzumim until for the sake of all the worlds coming into being, until this low world. Like the Rebbe Rashab explains in those places, the first tzimtzum is the source for all tzimtzumim. In general, Shem Yudke Vavke HaTzimtzumim, Yudke Vavke, it's Tzimtzum v'Ispashkus, Hamshacha v'Ispashkus, Alakim, it's Gvura, it's about Tzimtzum. There Tzimtzum even lower than Shem Yudke Vavke and Shem Alakim. V'ad shenimshach l'sfiras HaMalchus, until from the Tzimtzum Rishon comes about the Tzimtzumim that go into Sfiras HaMalchus. Shal Yodei Yisavas Oilmas Bri Yitzir Asiyah. Through Malchus comes into being the creation of the world of Yitzir Asiyah. And not only for that part of the Seder Ishtalshlus is the Tzimtzum Rishon a source, v'oidzos, in addition to that, Shaydei HaTzimtzum Rishon Oyagami and Shviras HaKelim L'Toyu. Only because of the Tzimtzum Rishon was there a possibility for the breaking of the vessels of Toyu. The only reason why you can have this physical world, that the klippos are an ascendancy over here, came about because of the breaking of the vessels of Toyu. And that breaking of vessels came about because of Tzimtzum Rishon. So every type of Tzimtzum throughout Seder Ishtalshlus, it is rooted in the level of the Tzimtzum Harishon. We'll stop over here.